6 o'clock, so I want to welcome everyone to our September 24th Commissioners meeting. Tonight, the invocation and pledge of allegiance will be by Commissioner Steve Shell.
Those who would like to join me. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to come together as a free people. Father, there's been so much in the past that without your guidance, your strength, and your wisdom, that had failure written all over it. Obstacles were overcome, challenges met, and now we live in the greatest country in this world. And it's all because of the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Father, we ask for your wisdom, your strength, and your guidance as we move forward to conduct the business of the people. It is with humble submission that we ask and we pray for the greatness that Davidson County is and the greatness that Davidson County will become will be by your guidance and your will. In the name of my precious Lord, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I want to welcome everyone, and our recognition tonight is Tim Williams here. Yeah, I see him now. Tim Williams is of the Lexington Chamber is scheduled to, he's representing the Council of Chambers here tonight. Also in the audience is Ms. Kate Gentry, Superintendent of Thompson City Schools. Ms. Gentry's here. And we have one other recognition, Matt Barber, and I think, Zeb, you're going to...
Yes, sir. We have Troy Coggins and Matt Barber with us tonight. As you know, Matt was honored with a Distinguished Service Award by the North Carolina Association of Extension 4-H Agents. This will also carry him on to he'll be recognized at a national conference in West Virginia, I believe. Is that right, Matt? And we always like to recognize our folks for their good work and representing us well out in their respective professions. So, Matt, Troy, if y'all would like to come up. Troy, if you'd like to say a few words about Matt. Don't be bashful.
Actually, I really would like to say a few words about Matt because he's done such an outstanding job. I know one of the things that y'all really care about is leadership for our future, and Matt has done a great job with that. Since he's been here, he's established a 10-member teen county council. We've had 7 of our youth become district 4-H officers, and one of those went on to be a state 4-H officer, and he is the district or the advisor for our district 4-H officer team. In terms of some of the things he's done even since this award application, the public speaking is one thing that a lot of youth really have trouble with, but we've done well here. He's had 14 youth make it to the state level in presentation competition. 6 of those received gold medal and 1 got a silver medal. We've had 8 youth attend 4-H Congress, and 1 of those taught a statewide workshop. And as far as teaching with science, technology, engineering, and math, the STEM acronym, if you would refer to it as that, he's trained 125 teachers in our school systems and reached 2,309 youth with this science, math, and technology and engineering education already this year. That's just this calendar year. And he's also a coach for the Gold Leaf Scholarship Program. He coaches 4 students each year. And I think one of the biggest things I want to say about Matt is when parents come up to me, they'll say, he really makes the difference. He said, our children have done so well because Matt takes time to go with them, and they do better because they're confident and comfortable because he's there. So we appreciate all that Matt does for us. Thank you.
Good job.
We do all want to congratulate all of Davidson County proud of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, you don't get off that easy.
We have to come up here and improve our reputation.
Troy, you get on up there.
Troy, come on up.
Come on, Troy. You'll fit in.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Good job. Congratulations, Matt.
At this time, if you haven't registered for public address, we'll have a public address in just a few minutes. You still got time to come up and sign up. We'll do that right after the adoption of the agenda. This is the item. Now, the adoption of agenda, I have moved the, public hearings to, follow the deliberations part of the agenda because we got about, I think, 2 or 3 public hearings. Casey Smith asked that request to reclassify delinquent tax collector position to a paralegal position. If you will, add that as 8M. Mr. Hanner has asked the approval of interlocal agreement with Rowan County to provide inspection services. That'll be on the consent agenda as 8N. And our Vice Chairman, Steve Shell, has asked that a resolution supporting and encouraging efforts to recognize the role of Daniel Boone in Davidson County history. That will be added as on the deliberations agenda as agenda item 9E. Now, is there any other changes needs to be made to the agenda? Any additions or deletions?
If not, Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the amended agenda.
Got a motion
Second.
to adopt the amended agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, if you'll cast your vote.
All the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. All right, our next item is a public address.
Mr. Chairman, only Mr. Hill signed up, so
Okay.
I
Barney W. Hill.
That's me. Item 9 Bravo is not a serious resolution in support of a serious piece of legislation. It is instead an excuse to make a political statement on immigration. These xenophobic eruptions have occurred periodically over the last 15 years. I think the first one was the effort to designate English as the official language of this county. The resolution says that the Sheriff's Association has endorsed the bill. What the resolution doesn't say is how much arm twisting preceded the endorsement. Our own sheriff has endorsed the bill. In doing so, he places himself squarely in the tradition of the sheriff who intimated that, quote, darker than snow, unquote, wasn't welcome in Davidson County. If I were the sheriff or a commissioner, what I wouldn't welcome in Davidson County would be agents of ATF, EPA, FBI, HUD, IRS, OSHA, or ICE. The Declaration of Independence condemned the swarms of officers the king sent hither to harass the people and eat out their substance. If the jail administrator is going to become a de facto employee of ICE, ICE ought to pick up the tab for the salary and benefits of the jail administrator. I oppose the resolution. And when you get to that part of the agenda, if you would indulge me, there are some bad discrepancies in the bill that is in the packet. I'd be glad to point them out to you.
Okay, that ends our public address. Now we're down to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? If not, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a second? Did I get a second?
Second, yes, sir.
Okay. Everyone will cast their vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Items for deliberation. First item is a request to schedule a public hearing for a no-wake zone. And Mr. Hannah, if you'll lead that off.
All right, Mr. Chairman, what you have before you is we're asking to schedule a public hearing, for a no wake zone buoy at High Rock Lake. The process is, someone has to come forward and ask the county to have an assessment done, which Mr. Cecil York, and I think he's here, and he lives at the River's Edge community there, and there's a long pier. And so the assessment officer went out, and he did come back and say that he felt like that, there was damage being done, and that it warranted having a no-wake buoy at each end of the pier. And so the next step in the process is you have to schedule a public hearing, which planning and zoning helps us, they notify all the neighbors, and to get public input to make sure that that's what the actual community wants as a whole. Normally it's been the county's practice that, the person asking for the assessment, and the assessment is free, but asking for the public hearing and the buoys, it will be at the expense of whoever's asking the citizen group, that they pay for the public hearing, which Mr. York is aware of and he's agreed to, and that they pay for the buoys and maintain them, because the county has not in the past ever done that. So that's normally been our process. But right now, the first step is to ask for a public hearing on November the 12th. Once you get input there from the community, then I think the board we have to, as a county, fill out an application if we move forward, and send a resolution, in support of putting those buoys out there. And then I think it's a long process. Then the state has to come out and, for, I think, a period of 6 months, and do some testing and assessments and things like that. So if we start now, it's probably gonna be next spring before it ever happens. I've talked to Mr. York. I think he already has some buoys, but I think he's probably also gonna have to show them to Cube Hydro to make sure that they're in agreement with those, what he's got. But for right now, all we're asking is to ask for a public hearing on November the 12th.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board to Mr. Hannah?
So does Cube Hydro, it's not Cube Hydro anymore, it's Canada or Canadian, whatever. Do they have any say-so at all, or is it just between the wildlife and?
I think they have some say-so in the type of buoys and stuff like that, but I don't know that they have a say-so in the buoys themselves.
Okay, it's between us and,
Right.
North Carolina Wildlife.
Okay. Can I have a motion from the board to schedule a public hearing on November 12th at 6 p.m.?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, just cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Got another question, Mr. Chairman, for, Zeb. Do you notify each property owner, in that whole development, or you just,
That's normally what planning and zoning does. They're and all the surrounding, as far, pretty far.
area?
There's the map.
Yeah,
And they're gonna notify
all
all
those
these folks from
property
here,
owners there.
All right,
all the way
okay.
down through here.
Good. That's,
Yeah, and that's actually a HOA, that area. It'd be the HOA, not an individual taking that responsibility.
Is that apartment complex, or
Mhm.
the condo?
Condo.
Yeah, Mr. Cecil's the president of that organization, but it would be that HOA taking it, so you don't have to worry about an individual.
Okay, so we've got a public hearing set for November 12th. Next item on the agenda is the resolution in support of HB 370. That's an act to require compliance with immigration detainers and administrative warrants. And, Commissioner Cross, you wanna lead this off?
Have I been given that one? Okay, here it is, I'm sorry. Didn't know I had it. Resolution supporting and encouraging efforts to, I flipped the page.
That's not it.
No, I do not have it.
Like we have it.
I don't know whether I didn't expect you to really read it since no one from the audience had requested it.
Okay,
Just for you all to consider it and to approve it.
I
So
got
we
you.
can send it out to our legislators.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think we had talked about this, a while back, and I know Mr. Hill opposes it. To me, North Carolina needs to take a stance on this. It's not inviting ICE in to knock doors down. The federal government, if they have, someone that has a state warrant against them, they hold them until that local department can get there to take them. This is just working with the federal enforcement agencies to keep people that are on detainees, back into their home country. So I fully support the resolution. I know Mr. Hill said he had some reserves on it and some issues to bring up, and that's fine, but, I support the idea of it.
Okay, so is that a motion from you to adopt the resolution?
If that's what you would like, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to do that.
It would be a resolution to send to our legislative delegates and to the governor in support.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second, or do you have any questions?
Ms. Clark, isn't this the same resolution that Carteret County sent us?
Yes, sir, it is.
I thought it was.
It
I
is.
second the
And
motion.
I checked with the sheriff and he was in favor of it being
I
adopted.
second the motion.
And I think what brought all this up was some counties want to support it and some
About the
maybe
governor.
don't.
Yeah.
All right, if we got a motion and a second to support this resolution and send it to the legislative delegates and our governor, so if you cast your vote.
Early.
All the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Item C, the fuel rebate program. Casey, you wanna lead that off?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We have a fuel rebate program at the airport. I think many of you are aware of this. Commissioner Wofford, this may be new to you. We have a fuel rebate program. Let me back up a few years ago. We had a lot of empty hangars. So we designed this program to entice folks to vacate those, or not vacate them, but occupy those hangars. The program works, it has a lot of different variables to it, but it basically entices people to buy fuel as a rebate back to them instead of, tax benefits back to them. The calculations for it is you have to pay your taxes on time. We get the value of the plane. We juxtapose that against kind of the 30 cents per gallon, get a capped out value. If you buy a certain amount of gas, we take the lower of the value and then we pay that out. And the city and us have been splitting that between the two of us over the years. The program is up for renewal now. So just to give you some quick numbers, we do about 100,000 gallons in the program. The value of the planes in the program is just under $12.5 million. And last year, the city and us paid out about $10,500 apiece for a total of $21,000. I talked with the city. We're currently occupied for the most part at the airport. We don't have a lot of vacant hangars, so they're gonna let their in lapse. They're not gonna participate in this new re-up version of this. So the proposal you have before you tonight is either we do the same and see if we have any vacant hangars, people leave as a result of this, or we continue on, but we would be sharing the full burden. It would no longer be a 50-50 split. So that's the proposal you have before you this evening.
Are there any questions for Casey? Do you understand this is to approve or deny?
What'd you say the taxable, amount was?
Just under $12.5 million.
That's quite a
And
bit.
it's mostly the race teams. I mean, RCR, Clint Boyer, it's people, it's not transient folks, it's folks that are
Hangars.
stable, they've got hangars there.
Sounds like the assets are there, so we surely wouldn't want them to leave. So I would support this,
What are the other airports of our size in the area, what do they do, if anything?
Some of them don't have two jurisdictions of taxes on them, you know, they just have the one. So that's another impetus for creating this, is to try to level out what the person occupying the hangar has to pay out compared to another airport. I can't speak for any other airports like in Rowan. I don't know of any other fuel rebate programs locally. And again, the program was born out of, you know, wanting to provide back tax rebates, but again, that's not something easily done in North Carolina. So this was a way to do that through the fuel. And if you buy more fuel, you qualify for more rebate.
And it helps sell fuel too.
It does sell fuel, yeah.
They're not stopping somewhere else
Yep.
and buying their fuel and coming home and just parking their airplane, so. You know, for $5,400, that's what it cost us, correct?
No, if we do this, the city's opting out. So for us, and it changes every year because of the values and the amount of fuel.
You said 10,000.
It's gonna be about 20,000 for us if we accept the full burden of it.
If we do the whole burden, but.
Yeah. Cause we have been splitting that math all down the line for the last several years.
And the
I
city's
think we
opting
still
out.
just do our half. Excuse me, I didn't mean to.
Oh, no,
talk
you're
over you
fine.
there, But
I- Go ahead.
that's kinda what I had in mind, us doing our half. If the city didn't do theirs, then that's on them, but.
If we'd have done the whole bit for this past year and the city wouldn't have gotten the rebate, how much money would that have put in the county's pocket if we'd have went and paid $20,000? How much rebate did the county get back?
We're paying the rebate through the fuel.
Okay. How
Yeah,
much,
so we're collecting taxes from these.
how
you know,
much, taxes do we get for
that
our
I don't
portion?
know. I'd have to get with jury. I do not know.
Property tax would be $54,000, well, about 60-some thousand on
It's not
12
just for
million.
this piece, you know, it's for the other hangars there as well. So just to tease that out.
So
I
even
do
if
it
we
on the
went
fly.
full, we'd still be getting a pretty good chunk back.
It's 67,500 on 12.5 million.
The city taxes those assets.
They're higher, right, their rate's higher too,
Right.
yeah. It's not exactly a 50-50 split, yeah.
So, you know, like I say, I'd love to give them all of it, but I think that, in my opinion, the city should participate as well, so I'm just really.
And I agree with Commissioner Yates. I think we need to continue to do what we need to do, especially during this time that we're starting to see some economic prosperity coming to this county. We don't need anything negative going out there that you're not welcome. We don't really care about you. And, so I think we need to continue to do what we're doing. City do what they wanna do.
But can we approve this proposal on just our part?
Yeah, I mean, we can design it, we can set the rules, I believe, where it's, the payout is mathematically only our piece of it. And it says the county will pay out to 100% now, and that's 100% of the spreadsheet that's my column, you know what I mean, that I'm gonna pay. I'll make the rules much clearer if we wanna do it that way, to just say, we're gonna have an eligible cap total of which we're gonna pay 50%, basically. And if, you know, the cities want to opt in at some other point in time, we'll have to get the agreement to them and work through it at that point in time. But as of today, they've opted out.
And you need to send the recipients a letter, the people that.
We do, we send them all this stuff and a copy of the rules, and the
But to let them know
guidelines.
that the
Yeah.
city has decided to opt out of this,
Yeah.
and that we will still continue to honor our,
I don't even know if I would even mention the city. Let the city conduct their own business. I just think,
Right now, don't. It
I
don't
just think
mention
we
them at
need to
all.
send them a letter so we will continue to honor our, you know, what we do and stick with Davidson County and let the city respond any way they choose to respond. I mean, that's my fault.
it's a joint agreement, so some people may not understand, they
Mhm.
should.
Well, they get the new rules, they'll see that the city got completely written out of it,
I mean,
basically.
you need to let them know something about why, you know.
Yeah, that way they can go knocking on their door. I would probably fix the rules so we don't have an issue like Pike Electric
I did,
again. Okay.
I did.
We already
I
fixed
made
that.
it much clearer, much clearer.
Okay. All right, I'm good with what Commissioner Yates said, but I also think that you need to list in there that was a county-city partnership, and now it's just the county. And I agree with Commissioner Yates.
And I like keeping it, 'cause that was one of the reasons why Pike wanted to house their plane and fuel it up here in Davidson County instead of keeping it in Florida. So, how many more would do that in the future if
Mhm.
we keep this, I'm good with it.
Okay, what's our motion gonna be now?
What Commissioner Yates said.
Commissioner Yates said.
Motion to, still do our incentive for the fuel, our rebate for the fuel for,
If you can add a little bit, leave me a little latitude to tweak the rules to make that clear in your motion. That way I don't have to continually bring it back, but I think it already is, but I'll make sure.
what Casey said.
Yeah, I don't wanna make it worse. I don't wanna make it worse,
Motion.
obligating
I
us.
second that.
I don't want no more misunderstandings with anybody coming to the podium,
You know, you may wanna have one more call to the city and say, this is what they decided to do, are you sure you don't wanna opt in and
Yep.
give them a second chance, but
Okay, our motion's gonna be our continuation of the fuel rebate program with
Level.
with our 50%.
our
There you go.
city's,
That's good enough.
or the county's, participation, and then Casey's gonna tweet it. Do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
If everyone will cast their vote, or is there any other discussion? Okay, vote.
All of the votes are in. And that carries 7-0.
Okay, I just got a question, Casey, have they run any kind of, figures out there on what the cost of gas is, or fuel is in these other airports?
Not that I'm aware of. I have not.
It might be a good idea.
I can ask Carl if he can check around jet fuel in other places.
I'm sure they try to stay a little under.
Yeah.
Carl
I would
usually,
guess.
he keeps a close eye on what everybody else charges in fuel. He tries to stay pretty competitive out there.
I've seen some figures in the past, but I can't remember now. I know there was some
'Cause it's all
comparisons with
listed on
Rowan
this
County.
AirNav, you can go on that and you can find what everybody's price of fuel is. It's kinda like Gas Buddy on your app on your phone. You can go, and he goes around, he checks all the surrounding airports and prices himself, so he's competitive.
It was just a thought that if we were charging the same thing as most of the other airports and then giving a rebate, that would give them an edge on the gas.
Mhm.
Yeah, but see, most people, if you're flying from Florida up here, you're not gonna stop in at Rowan County and fuel up and then come here. You're gonna go back to your hangar, 'cause it's gonna cost you more in fuel to land in Rowan County and then take back off than it would just be to land here, unless there's a huge substantial amount. So the local airports, what you gotta look at is the hangar price and the fuel price. And if we're just a little bit lower, but I know our hangar prices are a little bit higher than Rowan County. And I don't know why, but they're just a tiny bit higher.
Yeah, but then you also gotta look at, they charge for other services out there
That we may not.
that we may not, kinda like some of the Ys, where you might go to one Y and get in for a certain amount, and you go to another Y, you get for a little less, but you have to pay for the towel or something like that. So you have to be kinda careful what you do with stuff like that.
Sorry I brought it up.
You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, we got that solved, so let's go to D, cleanup of the Harris property at Fort York. So, Lib, tell us what we're gonna do about cleaning it
All
up.
right, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna ask, Chris Phelps and Thomas to come forward to kinda help me with this a little bit. As you know, we've been looking at this Harris property, in conjunction with what's the name of the group, Chris?
Conservation Fund?
Conservation Fund, it's a land trust. They seem to think they have all the funds in order to purchase this land, and give it to the county at no cost. Is that, if we wait till about December, I think?
Got a private funder, private foundation that is, looking at the project to partner with them on 50/50, so. Should have something on that front by December.
Yeah, but part of the process is, we've agreed to, if we get the land, that before it closes, there's an old mobile home on it, we have to clean that off. I think Thomas has talked to a contractor, and best we can tell is to clean the mobile home off. If we do use a contractor, it's about $10,000 to $15,000. And then if Thomas takes the excavator out there and loads the trucks up and takes it off, it's $5,000 to $7,000. Is that?
Yes, and I also talked to Charlie earlier too, to bring Charlie into this as well. He may be able to get some roll-off containers out there that will help lower that cost as well.
That'd be great.
Make it 3 to 5, I think, right?
Is this a single wide?
There's a single wide, there's a,
Storage building.
an old camper, there's a storage building, and then you have the remnants of the George Hill restaurant as well.
Does single wide still have axles under?
Well, we gotta do one of those for this.
I don't,
Probably
if you wanna
not,
roll it anyway.
probably not working.
It'll probably cost you more to clean up alongside the road.
We're gonna have to do a phase one environmental, right?
That's already been done.
It's already been done,
That's
we're
already been
good.
done, yes.
Was it
Final
clean?
search, phase one,
It's great,
all that.
Right.
perfect.
So, but, you know, for timing purposes, because it was a little bit more urgent when we started this because we didn't think there was anybody in the trailer, but they're still working on getting somebody out of that trailer. But we're gonna hit a point where, once that happens, then we're gonna have to clean it off. Basically, we need money in order to put out there somewhere to accomplish this. So,
I'd say Charlie and, y'all could clean it up pretty quick.
Tell us what you're gonna do with that trailer.
We got a new excavator.
Go crush it and put it in
I
the
guarantee.
landfill.
Charlie's got his
Come on up
hand
there,
up.
Charlie.
Something else you should hold on to is, there's a septic system that we have to go ahead and abandon and take care of.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I've already, talked to the engineer that's doing the septic system for our Fort York. They wanna look at if it might be something we can use in the future.
Yeah, if
They
it's
want to do an assessment of it, they've
Great.
already got that
Good.
in
Be
their price.
great,
I'd keep
be
it,
great.
yeah.
It's already in their price of the grant that we got for the Fort York septic system, for them to reevaluate this septic system when we get done.
So you was way ahead of us before you came up here.
Well, me and Chris have
Charlie
been
could
working
do
on this
that.
for a
Saves
while.
ton of money, yeah.
I guess from staff level, we're kinda requesting that the board appropriate money out to, I guess, do we still have a capital project for Fort York?
Mm-hmm.
Appropriate funds to that project so that they'll be available once we get ready to clean up, so we can go ahead and clean it up and get the project.
You said if we used a contractor, it was what, 10, 11?
They said 10 to 15.
It's 10 to 15. And if we clean up, like Chris was talking about, if we clean up the, old remnants of the
Just go ahead and clean the
restaurant,
entire
that's
site.
another $3,000 on top of it. If we go with
We
the
do that
contract.
in-house.
I mean, we got the equipment to do it. We got a new Traco we just bought last year, so
Mhm.
it'll
You could use that somewhere else.
capable of doing this, and we
Well-
got roll-offs, so.
I know we were talking about maybe 5,000, but I was just trying to add a little bit extra in there in case they run across something. Like, just appropriate 10 and hopefully they don't use it.
What do we do with the money if we done it in-house? Just give it to Parks and Rec? I mean, are we paying?
Well, what I'm saying is appropriate to that Fort York project, and then when it comes in, we'll charge it to the project.
Okay.
So, I mean, he's saying, what, you were saying 3 to 5 if we did ourselves, but that wasn't including the other,
That was not including
And
if
that's-
we could do roll-off containers.
alright, so,
But we don't know, we don't know if we can exactly do the roll-off containers in the time constraint that we have, but it would at least knock down a lot of the cost.
I got some roll-offs they can have, so, I mean, I'll donate some roll-offs to, I got some I didn't sell back years ago. If y'all need them, I'll just donate that, so. But yeah, I mean, I'm good with like $7,500 or something to throw in there, but you shouldn't use that with our equipment, and like I say, I'll donate some roll-offs, and I'm sure the county will have some.
Really nice of you.
We
There's
just-
about a
good.
17-day window from the time we can get on the property to take it off to the time closing date's set.
Yeah.
And that can move up if we get it done before that.
And I'm sure Charlie knows some more folks that would donate some roll-offs if need be. This is a good cause here, so.
Are they county gonna transport the roll-offs?
Well, I mean, we could transport them, we just don't wanna pay the dump fee.
That's what I was
You know,
getting
mean,
to.
I'm sure, I would transport them, but I wouldn't wanna pay the dump fee.
Yeah, we'd expect you to.
And I think, some of the bricks and stuff you're talking about, Charlie can use that on part of the roadways and stuff at the, landfill, so is actually a use for it. That's my opinion. That works with everybody else.
So our motion tonight would be to, do this in-house?
Absolutely,
that's why I'm here,
That not more than $7,500.
yeah.
and put it to the,
Mr. Chairman, if it can have the $7,500 appropriated, say, from capital reserve to the project, we can
To the
go from
Wilcox
there,
Bridge.
right?
Can we move it back out of that capital project fund back in our just normal capital projects, or does it have to stay?
We could move it to another, if we don't spend it, there'll be another capital project come along one of these
Okay.
days. It won't go nowhere, is basically what you're asking.
There'll be more money out there, yeah.
Let's say they had 5,000 left or something or whatever, we could move it later. It won't
Okay.
go anywhere.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't get the
Thomas
bond.
is always needing money,
I just need y'all to give me a heads up if y'all need my help, okay? Just make sure you give me some
Or we
notice.
could move it
We'll make a
to
motion.
Keys Park.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we
Uh,
appropriate
I'll second.
7,500 to the Wilcox Bridge
Okay,
project.
we got a motion and a second to approve, the in-house, so if you cast your vote.
Just so everybody knows, the county's not paying me anything, okay? They see my trucks out there hauling.
All of the votes are in and that motion carries 7-0.
That's what people be calling up saying.
Thomas, thank y'all. Chris, thank you. Charlie, thank you for donating your time and work. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Yates, for donating that.
Okay, item E, the resolution supporting and encouraging efforts to recognize the role of Daniel Boone in Davidson County history, and et cetera. Vice Chairman Shell will lead this off. Mr. Shell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For some time, I think we've all heard of stories about Daniel Boone, and we all recognize the historical value of creating stakeholders in the future, and our children, they must be taught the history of Davidson County. And, I'd like to read this resolution, Mr. Chairman, and then recognize two gentlemen that have spent not hours, but years on acquiring information
Okay.
that I think is pertinent to our county here. Resolution supporting and encouraging efforts to recognize the role of Daniel Boone in Davidson County history, and to encourage others to support the efforts to identify and preserve possible historical and archaeological sites related to Daniel Boone and his family. Whereas, an understanding of our history is critical and necessary to an understanding of ourselves, and whereas Davidson County wishes to continue to explore, preserve, and promote its natural and historical resources for future generations of its citizens, and whereas historian Frederick Jackson Turner observed, American democracy was born of no theorist's dream. It was not carried in the Susan Constant to Virginia, nor in the Mayflower to Plymouth. It came out of the American forest, and it gained new strength each time it touched a new frontier, and whereas those frontiers were common men and women, often children of several nations, some no longer in existence in modernity, many of them our common and shared ancestors, and whereas historical advancements in scholarship and technology are beginning to reveal more information about our earliest origins in the colonial era and beyond, and whereas among those common men and women who were prepared to advance beyond their own frontiers were Squire Boone with son Daniel and daughter Elizabeth, and Daniel's close friend Henry Miller, who was living with the Boone family as a blacksmith apprentice, made an exploratory trip to North Carolina in 1749, and whereas the party followed the road cut by the Bryan family to an area along the North Yadkin River and north of the South Yadkin River, and determined that the next year the Boones would settle on the east side of the North Yadkin River, Davidson County, adjacent to a place which became known as Boone's Ford. And whereas it was determined that the east side of the river, Davidson County, was ideal for planting crops in the river bottom and for placing a log house for protection and for viewing the expanse of the river and adjacent lands. While living at this location, Daniel's father, Squire, was appointed as one of the justices of the Rowan County's first court in 1753. And in the same year, he was appointed as one of the commissioners of a large district within Rowan County. In this latter role, he made all decisions as the civil administrator, and whereas the remainder of the Squire Boone extended family group moved to the Yadkin River Valley in 1750 and established their station and family dwelling on the eastern side of the river, Davidson County, while the exploration for home sites for the growing families happened on the western side of the river in Davie County, and whereas Linwood resident A.F. Smith confirmed in a letter dated January 10th, 1885, that a Boone homestead was located on the eastern side of the Yadkin River, a spring and bottom, and whereas Daniel Boone would live in this informal settlement on the east side of the Yadkin until approximately 1756, when he moved to the west side of the Yadkin River in Davie County. In 1767, he moved further up the Yadkin to Wilkes County before embarking on a truly legendary life which directly caused, promoted, and enabled the settlement of the Kentucky Territory and places beyond. And whereas modern historical research continues to yield clues to the existence of certain structures and historical and archaeological sites, which if located could provide immeasurable data, information, and tourism benefits related to the Boones and early settlements in Davidson County, North Carolina. Now therefore be it resolved that the Davidson County Board of Commissioners voices its support for further research efforts directed at documenting, identifying, preserving, protecting, and promoting the history of Daniel Boone's life and times in which he lived in what would eventually become modern Davidson County. It will encourage the assistance of various regional and state agencies to contribute to those important ongoing efforts. Adopted this 24th day of September, 2019. Mr. Chairman, I would like to remind folks that in that time period, there was no Davidson or Davie County. This was all within the Rowan County. So we were all one group located in the area down around that Yadkin River area down there. And I'd like to recognize two people that's put a lot of work in this. Chris Wofford, Sim DeLaff. You two gentlemen would come forward.
And while they're coming up, I'm gonna consider this your recommendation to approve this.
Yes, sir. That's would be my motion to approve.
All right, do I have a second?
Absolutely.
All right, let's vote on this. Chris, you said absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yes, you second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you vote to approve this resolution supporting.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Is there any questions for these two gentlemen before I go down?
I have a comment. This is absolutely amazing. Thank y'all. I'm a history buff myself, and to learn more about, where we're at and who walked down our roads and who was right there at, near Boone's Cave, and we can think about that, and, this is just amazing. Y'all have done a tremendous effort for all the citizens of Davidson County. Thank you so much.
Well, it was our pleasure, and believe it or not, it was a whole lot of fun as well.
Yeah.
I know these guys have put forth not only hours, but I know Sim's been working on it for several years. And it's just to have that kind of dedication to deliver the education, and this is ultimately to those who will follow our watch. If you don't know where you came from, you're not going to know where you're going. And if you want stakeholders and our children, they've got to have a connection to the community that their ancestors grew up in and developed. And I too, I join Chris. I'm very humbled and I'm very thankful.
If I may make a comment, of course, I'm like some of the rest of you, born and raised in this fine county. And I'm 75 years old. And from the time I was big enough to, look at comic books and begin to watch TV and hear family discussions, my daddy's law partner was Mr. McCrary, and there were a lot of gentlemen who became a lot older gentlemen who were very interested in this project. But there was also a lot of people who were very skeptical because you did not produce much more than what people said. And that would be debated from time to time, even to the point in 1962 when old Dr. Sowers and Mr. Frank Stoner, who was a senator at the time, went down because it was at that time a state park which had been abused.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went down and asked the people, that dealt with the historical stuff, if they would support some money to, fix up the park that it looked terrible. And so they went through a whole discussion. And finally, old Dr. Sowers, who, little tiny guy, he's even shorter than I was. He lived down the street from where Mom and Daddy did. He got up and explained and really laid his heart out, saying this is the place. And the state government, in the way that bureaucracy can be, basically told him that, the state had no use for the property because there was no historic value. And guess who got the property? We did. That's where you see all things work together for good.
Mm-hmm.
So, probably 10 years ago, I wasn't looking to prove. I was looking for the truth. I'd heard it all my life, that it was and that it would. So I decided I was going, with Mr. Waterford and others, a man named Ken Camper, who's probably the premier Boone historian in the country. We started looking. And Mr. Camper did most of the work. A brilliant man. And he sends some documents, and one of them was not a deed, but a survey. It's in your packet. And it basically said that these two surveyors went to cut a piece of land, had nothing to do with the Boones. And you had to know what you were looking for. But it said that they crossed Sandy Creek at the ford. Sandy Creek is not in Davie County. It's on our side. And they followed that path out to Squire Boone, 1753. So we had a document, and we've done other research on it too. Please, you can look at this, and some of you won't want to read, some of you will, but the board told, the people in Raleigh told Dr. Sowers after he finished, he said, we turned down your request. And old Dr. Sowers said, well, he was there. Gentlemen, he and his whole family were there. They were probably 10, 15 cabins out there. Not just one. He wasn't but 15 years old. And the rest is history. A fine man. And we have a part of his life. So thank you for this. But as he said, it's our pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
For good old Davidson County.
He's got a pretty resolution there.
He kept me straight.
And if you all need another copy for them. All right, got it here.
We can get more of this.
Really?
I don't want to sit at the back end of
It's a
it.
no-brainer, wasn't it?
Okay.
Karen?
Sorry, I'm in la la land.
Don't you be left out.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
With my glasses straight.
Yeah, I got one here.
No, now you got it.
And the money that's gonna have to.
Yeah, I reckon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really?
Shake my hand. I'm sorry, sir, I was talking to Hellbus, Chairman.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Hey, thank you.
Glad to see you.
Appreciate it.
Give us another
Good
picture.
job, sir.
If we can
Thank
find
you.
How you doing, Chris?
it.
You still got that rock, ain't you?
Oh, you'll find more.
Okay, now we're down to the public hearings now. So that's all our deliberations. Guy, you wanna come up?
So did you vote for or against?
Huh?
You vote for or against?
Yeah, I voted to take it.
No.
I'm forgetting.
Okay, y'all ready?
It's like the bridge.
Our first rezoning request is by William C. and Misty Cook in Silver Hill Township.
Took it. That's a long time ago.
Mr. Corman?
Sure. You have a request by William C. and Misty C. Cook to rezone property, located in Silver Hill Township, tax map 13, tax map 15, part of lot 64, containing 2 acres more or less. Property is located on the north side of NC Highway 47, approximately 1,300 feet off the Bethany Road intersection. Rezoning is requested to change from HC Highway Commercial District to that of CUHI Conditional Use in Heavy Industrial District. The Planning and Zoning Board met on September the 3rd. I believe you had minutes in your...
Because it's a conditional use.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, it's conditional use, so you didn't have the minutes. But the recommendation at that time was 5-0 to approve the request. The applicant would like to use this property as a deer processing facility. I think the board will be familiar with it, some of the board members. This had originally been a sawmill operation, since May of '90, it was zoned LI, limited industrial, and that was for the sawmill and then a couple of years ago, Mr. Cook applied for a highway commercial. He took the 2 acres and had it zoned for highway commercial for a wedding venue. If you go down to his property, he has multiple buildings on the property, storage buildings. But at this time, he would like to use the 2 acres for, as I said, as a deer processing facility. That constitutes what we call an abattoir, which is a meat processing facility, and that's only allowed in an HI, so that's why we have to go to a heavy industrial. But he's doing it as a conditional use, and as part of the application, you can see what his conditions are being proposed. But Mr. Cole is here, but because it is a quasi-judicial procedure, Mr. Chairman, it'd probably be important that we go ahead and get folks sworn in.
Okay. This public hearing is open, and anyone that is gonna speak in this public hearing needs to come up and get sworn.
Come on up, Cole.
Is that sworn at?
Okay. Do you swear that the testimony you shall give the board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Debbie, you wanna?
I will. Mr. Hill, you do affirm that the testimony you are about to give, if any, will be the truth and nothing but the truth, but there's only one who can know the whole truth? Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cook,
Hello.
if you can tell us a little bit about it.
It's about 2 acres plus or minus. It's just a corner chunk out of a bigger property, as you can see on the map. I have access off of Peter Hedrick Drive, which is a private driveway on the one side there. Yeah, right here. And I've got with the DOT, and they've gave me permission and
said it was okay to use this as a commercial driveway. Bends, you can see 450 foot each way in a 45 mile per hour zone off Highway 47. My building's going hopefully right in the center of the property. I've got buffers all around, hardwood buffers, all this. There's a fence line on this property line, and if there's a fence, it's all grown up in cedars. The neighboring property is family property, that's all pasture right here. And other neighbors, this is a power line, a high voltage power line. And I'm on good terms with all my surrounding neighbors, to my knowledge. None of them, or they're all fully supportive of this plan. As far as the building goes, the business, I have a state-approved water handling system. All wastewater will be collected in a tank, and I acquired a pump and haul permit to, when the tank is full, they pump it and then haul it to the treatment plant. There won't be any bloody or contaminated wastewater in the ground or on the surface. And I'll be open from September till about the 1st, a little after the 1st of the new year. So I'll be in business. Business hours will be 9 to 9, 7 days a week. And well, it'll be a clean facility. I've got everything planned, and just like the water holding system, everything's planned to a T to keep the facility clean. So,
Is there any questions from the board for Mr. Cook while he's up here? Thank you, Mr. Cook. Might be questions later, but not now.
that'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, is there anyone else that is sworn in the audience that should come up and speak for or against this request?
No noise because everything's going on inside. Not much traffic. Open only 3.5 months of the year. And a prospective proprietor who had to demonstrate his knowledge a little bit more before the planning board than you've had him do, and he had a ready answer for every question. According to the application, precedent exists in a 2012 rezoning for the same purpose, which we would have heard about if anything had gone wrong. If the deer aren't objecting to the request, neither should you.
Is there anyone else that, Guy?
All right, what I'd like the board to do is, of course, look at it first, as a legislative, request, and then we'll look at the, conditional, permit, but, policy 4.3 of the adopted land development, plan does lend support to the rezoning request. As I pointed out on the, zoning map, it had previously had a woodworking and a sawmill already there in the limited industrial. And 4.3 says industrial development should be located on land that is physically suitable and has unique locational advantages for it. And so, as he's pointed out, he intends to use the Peter Hedrick Road, which is a private road, but it's a much better entrance than directly off of Highway 47 because of the site distance. And he's already had the environmental health out there to look at the property for the special septic system that he's gonna be needing. So, at this time, we're gonna recommend approval of the request, particularly it's gonna be providing a service, as everyone knows, Davidson County has this popular sport of deer hunting, and they need this type of service to, process, the game. So, at this time, we would recommend approval.
Okay, the public hearing's closed. Now we're gonna vote now on the legislative,
Yes, you'd vote on the legislative.
request. All right, are there any questions for Mr. Corman from the board?
I have just one quick,
Okay.
point. Mr. Corman,
Yes, sir.
I don't know how important this might be, but there is an error in the application. And I don't know, they're referencing Highway 49 instead of 47 in one of the spots here. As you look at the.
Well, the legal did run with NC Highway 47, so the legal that ran in the newspaper, so it did have the correct highway designation
I just
on
wanted to
that.
make sure that had been
Okay.
taken care of.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion that we approve this.
I think at this point, Mr. Corman was recommending that this be divided and that the initial consideration by the board would be simply the legislative decision to rezone the property to HI. Is that correct, sir?
HC to
Yes, sir.
HI. Yes, sir.
And then you would, in a second vote, consider the conditions which would be applicable to that rezoning.
That's correct.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve this from HC to HI.
Okay.
And the resolution on statement of consistency.
I thought that was on the conditional use.
That's on that's
Okay,
on the
and, excuse me, I stuttered, and the resolution of consistency.
Or do you have a second to his motion?
Second.
Ms. Yates.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve
Thank you, Madam
the
Clerk.
legislative request. Cast your vote for that.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Okay.
All right, in your, application, you should have the stated conditions that the facility will provide a necessary service to the to prevent littering of animal carcasses beside roadways and proper disposal methods of game meat. The facility will provide an option for processing the meat of unwanted, poached, or animals killed on the road to be utilized as a clean food source. The facility will have a state-approved wastewater system to prevent wastewater from contaminating any groundwater and surface water. A state-issued pump and haul permit has already been obtained by the applicant. All solid waste will be stored in sealed barrels for no longer than 4 days and will be properly disposed by a protein contractor.
Excuse me, Mr. Coleman? In the exhibit that we've got, that's, under the Cold Town deer processing, the actual limitations are on further down. This approval shall be subject to the following specified conditions and limitations.
I was looking at Exhibit A,
Permission is hereby granted, and then it says, the approval shall be subject to the following specified conditions and limitations.
I think that may be the DEQ
yeah,
permit.
that's the DEQ.
What?
I think
That's part of the, requirement from the state
Hall.
for the pump and haul permit.
It's not the conditions, it's the DEQ permit.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm reading from the conditions that the applicant had, provided.
Okay, well, it wasn't addressed that way. It didn't say conditions, it just said Cold Town deer processing. I don't have an issue with that, I just was trying to find the right ones where you was going.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Okay, and then, let's see, I left off, proposed facility will maintain a simple, quiet, country atmosphere and will consist of one 1,500 square foot single-story building with wood siding to match any other structures already on the property and the surrounding neighborhood. Property is approximately 200 yards off NC Highway 47 behind a private residence with an easement driveway off of a private road, and that's Peter Hedrick Road that we showed on the map. Property has natural hardwood buffers surrounding 3/4 of the property lines. The facility will only be operational 3 months of the year. The hours of operation will be 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., 7 days a week, lasting from mid-September until January 1 yearly. The operation will not generate any noise pollution. And those are the conditions that he's offering with this request.
Yeah, if these are put into place, there are strict provisions, right?
Yes, sir. If he violates
it. It says 3 months, but actually if you factor in the mid-September till first, you come at 3.5 months, so do
Yes,
they
sir.
need to put 3.5 months?
It would be 3.5 months.
We'll shut them down right in the middle of busy season.
No. And he
Just make
says
it 4
from
months.
mid-September until January 1.
That's about 3.5 months.
3.5 months.
So just move it to 4 months and be done with it.
You could give them time to clean up.
Give them time to clean up. Good point, Mr. Chairman.
Here to Cole and address that.
I would say just move it to 4 months.
Yeah.
I'm not a deer hunter, I just cut them. The dates, I don't, it's like any other thing, I don't pay attention to the dates that much, I'm just ready when they come.
Guy, we can change that to 4 months, can't we?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As long as he agrees.
I agree.
And everything else is,
Everything else is
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, if you're ready,
Yeah.
I make a motion that we change that to 4 months and we pass, the conditional uses that the client, or not client, I've been working all day today. Applicant, I've been working with clients all day, but applicant provided.
We have a second?
That good motion with you, Ms. Clerk?
That's a good motion.
Second.
I got it.
I wanna check.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to
Before you
approve
waste
these
time.
conditions. All in favor?
Just comment,
Just make, okay.
on the second condition that you have there, facility will provide an option for processing, the meat of unwanted post or animals killed on the road. That's a tremendous public service. I'd like to thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, if you've cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And the conditions are approved by those 7 to 0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next rezoning request is by Christopher Kinley in the Boone Township. Guy, now declare this public hearing open, go ahead.
You have a request by Christopher Lee Kinley to rezone a portion of said property in Boone Township, tax map 6, being a portion of lot 2, containing 1.06 acres more or less. Property is located on the northeast corner of Boone's Cave Road and North Goat Pasture Road intersection. The address of the property is 3232 Boone's Cave Road. The zoning is requested to change from that of RS, Low Intensity Residential District, to that of RA1, Rural Agricultural District. Planning and Zoning Board met on September the 3rd. Their recommendation was 4-1 to recommend approval of the request. The applicant, Mr. Kinley, is here tonight. This is a legislative decision. It's not a quasi-judicial decision, so it's you're just looking at it legislatively. On your map, this property that he is looking at is shown as the site. The current property owner of record is Mr. Stephen Sowers, but Mr. Sowers has signed the application to show the support of the request. It's my understanding that, Mr. Kinley has a, contract to purchase the property, provided that he's successful in getting the property rezoned. Mr.
Okay,
Kinley, you
now-
wanna come on up?
Yeah, Mr. Kinley, come on up. Public hearing's open, so if you'll,
Yes, sir. Just wanting it rezoned so we can put a double wide there as permanent residence. Right now it's zoned, for stick-built or modular only, and that's out of my price range for the square footage we need. I will mention that it's contiguous, right there where it says 2K, you can put pretty much anything that you would want there. So that's basically it. There's not really a whole lot for me to say.
okay. Will, is there any questions for Mr. Kinley?
I have, Mr. Kinley, you're aware that you're right at one of the biggest coming attractions to Davidson County, the entranceway to that.
Yes, sir, I am.
And you recognize the importance of first impressions as far as what our visitors and what our tourists and people like that have
Yes, sir.
while entering that park.
I understand that, and I would, with all due respect, say, if I decided to stick build, or I decided to put a modular up, we wouldn't be here having this conversation tonight, So, whoever decided to buy that property could buy that property and build whatever they wanted, within the guidelines of the building, and who's to say that they're gonna keep their property up as well as I will?
Well, it's not to insinuate that you won't.
Yes, sir.
It's
I
just
understand
that, sometime, well, for example, the participation at that park went from, increased by 74.1% in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So you're looking at potentially having a lot of traffic, and I just wanted you to understand whether or not you were aware of that.
Yes, I understand that. I've lived out in that area for quite a while. My wife's got friends on Moon's Cave Road. She grew up out there, so we're familiar with the traffic out there. We visit the park from time to time.
Beautiful area.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Had
good place for us
changed
to
a
be able to
whole
go
lot.
canoeing,
Yeah.
kayaking. It's good place to keep privacy too. I know we're gonna have the traffic on the weekends and through the week when there's events, but for the amount of land that I can afford, it's not like I'm getting an acre lot where I'm gonna be stacked on top of people. I don't
On the
know.
bright side, you can just walk right down to the park.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Exactly.
There might be other questions for you in a minute, but not now.
Can you
Pub-
guys speak at this point?
Yep. Public hearing, beg your pardon?
I'm the 2K.
Okay.
Yes, I do, my husband and I own that property right there. We fell in love with the area. We're transplants from Georgia. When I worked down
Ma'am,
there-
could you
What
state
is
your
your
name,
name?
please?
I'm so sorry.
That's
I'm
okay. Could you
sorry.
state your
First
name, please?
timer.
I know, that's okay.
Penny Buchanan.
Okay.
And just give your address.
I don't have the house there yet. Do you want the address of the property or where I'm
That's fine, as
residing?
long as you got it.
Okay, that's 3420 Boone's Cave Road. So sorry for that. But my concern is, we fell in love with the property out there, and when we bought our corner there, it was under the impression of, the zoning that was there. And, to start with, I actually thought it was part of the park. Because when you see the gates there and the side there, it really does look like it's part of the park. It was later when I was doing some research for something else that I realized that was privately owned. And so, if we zone that where a mobile home can go there, does that open the door to the larger lots right here? That kind of opens the door for them to go double wide as well. And you're right, I think it was Mr. Sell that said it, that is the gateway to a very nice park, and we put a lot of money into it as a county. I've had to take out a few trees on 2K, on the Boone's, Cave side, Boone's Cave Road side. And our plan is, we're gonna plant back, because I don't want it to look like anybody lives there, because I love that spot, and it just kind of broke my heart to even have to take down my trees, to put them there. Kevin and I have spent a tremendous amount of time, people were dumping trash up and down the North Goat Pasture Road there. We've spent a tremendous amount of time picking up trash, to try to maintain, it's pretty. There's a lot of wildlife out there, and I didn't want the, deers and squirrels and all to get hurt with the dumping of the trash. I don't begrudge him building, I just don't wanna see the zoning changed where we could open the door for more mobile homes to go there. I know that's, we're talking in the future, but we have spent a lot of money, taxpayer money, to make that park very, very nice. And, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know, a lot about, I guess what I'm trying to say is the difference between the two zonings. I just thought that protected this corner here. My part, the 2K, is what he wants it zoned to. We have 6 acres, so 1 acre for a mobile home, is that gonna set a precedent for the future? And that's all I have.
If I understand it right, the new zoning request will be more restrictive than what's on it now.
But if that's true,
Is
then
that
why
true?
can't he go ahead
Yeah.
and put a double
Well,
wide there?
it's actually zoned RS now, and that's
for
stick-built homes only. It is considered down zoning, but it's, each application has to rise and fall on its own merits.
You told me that when I called you about this morning, that it was a step up as far as,
I don't think
because you went on to illustrate that, a solid foundation
well,
underneath it and all that.
it's our,
Otherwise, it would have to be.
yeah, RS is our most restrictive, RA1 is our next one down, and it's gonna have to, it is gonna have a permanent masonry foundation. So it'll look very much like a house, but it won't, but it is considered a manufactured house, but it's a stick-built it's not a stick-built house, it's a manufactured home, but it is gonna have a permanent masonry foundation.
Well, now her property there, the 2K, she's already the RA.
She's RA1.
I'm already RA1.
So he could put his trailer on her property with no problem. Is that right? What do you plan on doing to your property?
We're building a house with a
Oh, you are?
basement, and, I mean, it's like a $300,000 house, so.
So you'll be changing the zoning, or?
I don't need the zoning change, no. I looked at that when we
Right,
purchased,
you're
we
right,
knew what we were
you're right.
getting.
Well, here's the thing that you have to look at, what I look at. A double wide on a brick foundation looks just like a stick-built house. The only way that you can tell it's a double wide is if you crawl underneath the crawl space or you go inside of it. You can look inside the house, and there's a few things that you can look at to tell that it is a double wide, and you can crawl underneath it. There's modular homes right now that do not look like modulars until you crawl in the attic or underneath it and you look at the beams. But as far as the outside of his house, it's gonna look just like a regular stick-built house.
Well, I just hate for the park entrance right there you're gonna have to take out the shape of the lot, you're gonna have to take out a lot of trees. So there won't be any, not much for camouflage or those kind of things, but, I mean, it is what it is, and y'all are gonna do what you're gonna do, but, I just wanted y'all to know that there were people, at least 2, that was concerned about changing the zoning. Somebody's gonna build there, they're gonna build there, but changing it to downgrade that is, unfortunate, in my opinion.
I'd like to say something. I understand, and I hear exactly where you're coming from. Looking at the map, that's zoned one way right now, but you go down a little bit down the road and you already have some RA1s that you could put, mobile homes on.
Yeah, I did a quick count, and I counted about 9 manufactured, homes on Boone's Cave Road. 3 or 4 of them, I believe, were double wide, the rest were single wide. Now, the majority of the housing out there are stick-built homes, there's no question about it, but I did count existing, homes. But the reason that has the RA, zoning out there is because of the large tracts of land out there that are undeveloped, and that's why. it's mainly rural agricultural out there.
What was the purpose of zoning all that RS then?
The Board of Commissioners at the time wanted the highest and best protective for the park itself, because at the time they were unsure what they were going to actually do with the park. They had not fully decided that they were going to take it on.
And that's what I was wanting to speak to when I was, talking before. Just a couple more things. We're kinda like at the 11th hour. We've got the park going, it's been there, it's doing that. If we wanted to protect the entrance of the park, that should have been done when we were doing this at the beginning. Kinda like what we're doing now with the park that we're dealing with at Yadkin River. And I think the board has done a tremendous job with getting the land and going ahead and making, decisions for future there. This is one of the issues where it kinda is what it is, and it's called a statement of consistency, 'cause we wanna be consistent to all of the citizens and not just pick and choose. I spent a lot of time of my life working on that Boones Cave Park, blood, sweat, and tears. And every time that we would go down to get a bologna sandwich down there at, we would go down the Goat Pasture Road, and we saw everything from refrigerators to, at one point in time, it looked like a landfill.
Yep.
I think having anything right there in that section of land would do more from keeping riffraff down in that area than just having it vacant. So, I didn't know that this was you, Mr. Kinley, but I know you personally. I know your family, and I'm sorry you have to go through this, but I know that you'll keep that land up and you'll do more for the park than anybody else. And, that's all I have to say.
All right, the public hearing's still open, now, Ms. Watt?
Could you show me where the entrance to the park is?
Sure, if you want to show it to her.
He can show me.
Right here.
Right there, okay, right there beside your
That's the
property.
new entrance.
Okay, thank you.
And Zeb, I'm not sure when we purchased that 2F and 2G, but we did purchase that at some point in time from Mr. Sowers.
In the last 10 years.
Well, let me ask you this, well, I should stand up. I'm gonna be honest with you, if I'm gonna have neighbors that don't really want me there, I don't know if I wanna be there anyways. What I'm gonna ask is this something that the county would be interested in purchasing themselves and keeping, maybe you didn't know it was available, and keeping to preserve the park, I mean, I have a feeling that it's probably gonna get passed today, but if it's gonna preserve the park and you feel like that's better for the park, there's other land. I can find another place to live. I can find another place to put a piece of property. I certainly don't wanna be next to neighbors that feel like I shouldn't be there. Or be there in, what I'm gonna be living in. And just throwing that thought out there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kinley. Is anyone else who'd like to speak in favor or against this proposal, this rezoning request?
These grown-up people standing here talking about whether a house is gonna detract from the appearance of a cave. The southern part of this county was put under zoning because people refused to look at even the most upscale, non-stick built dwelling and see anything other than an abode appropriate to Ma and Pa Kettle. Nearly 30 years later, attitudes have matured. Neighbors now seem open to the wide variety of affordable housing types listed in policy 6.10. Well, there goes that paragraph, that's wrong. And my final sentence was gonna be, I offer as evidence the lack of opposition to this request. But if he wants to bring it back, I'm in favor of it.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to speak, for or against this?
Unfortunately, Mr. Kinley took it to a personal level, and it has nothing to do with personal, likes or dislikes. I wanna see the park protected. I would love for the county to buy that corner. I mean, if we can afford it, that would be awesome. I did not realize, I thought, what I had looked at was that Mr. Sowers still owned 2G. And that he was just allowing, Boone's Cave to use that as an overflow. So, if we actually, the county owns 2F and 2G, I think it would be awesome if they could also own that triangle right there. It already looks to be part of the park. And it's a beautiful entrance right there. But it was nothing personal. Thank you.
Okay. And Guy, I believe it's right. This is contingent on his buying this property if it's rezoned, is that right?
That's,
The way my contract's drew up, yes, sir.
yes, sir.
So my question to you then, if it's not rezoned,
It would remain RS, and he would not be able to use it in the manner that he tends to try to use it.
is that, or what if we approve it, and wait a minute, and he buys it, but then, no. If we approve it, and change the zoning, and then he decides not to buy it, what happens?
No.
It would just remain, Mr. Sowers's property, but the zoning would change.
The
If this
zoning
board,
would change?
yes,
So Mr. Sires' property would be
RA1.
RA1. Okay.
Yeah, I'm very interested in what you said a while ago. That the previous board zoned that area out there for a specific reason, and that was to protect the park, the future development of that park. So tell me what's changed that is now coming back before that I hadn't seen that information in this package at all.
Well, I was just, it's been since 1990, and that's the only reason why I could think, in general terms, why that was given RS. It's just because they just assigned it the highest residential zoning at the time.
And you say that, but they didn't zone 2K that way.
No, because that was, didn't belong to the county at the time. That belonged to Mr. Sowers, and so they just left that corner, the RS down to Goat Pasture Road.
So what was 2G when we bought it?
It's zoned RA1.
RA1, so all that out there was RA1 basically.
Yes. And that's why in my recommendation, I looked at it, and my recommendation was to allow for the rezoning because it was contiguous to the existing RA1, both on the, to the west and to the south south of Goat Pasture Road.
Yeah, I
So,
believe you said the zoning board approved it 4-1.
4-1.
Was this the one, opposition, or was there more opposition?
Just there was no opposition spoken at the planning board.
There was no opposition?
No, sir. But we did have discussion about the enhancements that were done at the entrance of the park.
Can you elaborate on why one opposed it?
I think he was trying to maintain what he considered to be the beauty of the entrance.
Okay.
The aesthetics.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
I close the public hearing to Do you wanna rebut anything before I close the public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, could I speak
Yes, sir.
real quick? I think Mr. Kenley, kinda really needs to let us know if he wants to keep the property or not, because that's gonna fully, swing how I vote on this. If he doesn't want it, and he doesn't wanna be there, then obviously we should not change where the property is. Now, if he does wanna be there, that could change some things.
Isn't in the contract zoning?
Well, I believe he wants to be there, but he don't wanna be there if he's got.
And that's what I'm saying.
so-
I think that decision needs to be made, Mr. Chairman.
We're not supposed to be, as a board, considering whether he's gonna buy it or not. He's made a recommendation, the request to have it rezoned. We're supposed to act on that. That's not something we can do.
Make that decision without speaking to my wife about what took place.
All right, Guy, return to you, go ahead.
Okay, well, again, because of the fact that it is contiguous to existing RA one, and policy 6.5 of the land development plan says manufactured housing may be located according to appearance criteria and development standards consistent with nearby properties. I would not recommend that this be rezoned to RA two, because I don't think a single wide mobile home would be appropriate for this location. But I do feel comfortable with an RA one because of the appearance criteria that's required of the RA one, meaning that it has to have a permanent masonry foundation with a pitched roof there to make it look like a stick-built home. And then policy 6.10 says that Davidson County may seek to encourage the development and appropriate placement of a variety of housing types, including site-built homes, apartments, townhouses, duplexes, granny flats, garage apartments, and accessory living units, and manufactured homes. So I felt like that policy statement could also speak in support of the request. Mr. Swain wanted me to also mention to the board that if there's any concerns about manufactured home parks, you're required to apply for a special use permit in addition to being in the proper zoning district to allow for parks. So, in addition to having it zoned either RA2 or RA1, you would have to have that special use permit in place as well. So that'd be another level of approval that would be needed for a park. But,
Mr. Chairman, can I say one more thing, and then I'm just gonna rest my peace? I think in the day and the hour that we live in right now, when we send kids to school, and they're made fun of by the clothes that they wear. They can't afford the Vineyard Vines. They can't afford the Abercrombie and Fitch. They can't afford that. And then we talk about people bullying one another, and we shame people about how much they can afford and what they can afford. And now we're sitting here right now talking about a family that could have a house, not being in a shelter or anything else, and we don't want to put them on there because it's a single wide, it would look bad, or it's a double wide, or it's this or that. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I continue.
okay. So I've incorporated that into your consistency statements, but the staff and the planning board did recommend approval of the request because we felt like what was being proposed would remain harmonious with the existing housing stock that's in the area.
Okay. Are there any questions for Guy? Or is there any more discussion from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to say one thing.
All right.
I don't recall one single question up here that belittled Mr. Kenley. I do recall questions up here that tried to find out what was gonna be out there. And I think we have a right to know that, what is gonna be out there. I've not heard one single commissioner up here do anything to degrade you whatsoever. degraded type home you wanna build, there are questions about what you gonna be doing with the property. But that's natural, that's at every zone in here. So I don't know how this thing went south, because I think the only thing I asked you was pointed out to you what you were gonna be looking at when you built it. I don't think I said a thing about anything against you or disparaging to you. Do you recall me saying anything to you that belittled you?
I'm not gonna make any comments, sir.
Well, be honest. Because this is videoed, and we can go back and pull it up. I never said one thing against you whatsoever, or against the type home that you were gonna build. I simply pointed out what the increase to that park was, and were you aware of that?
For clarification, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't trying to call out Commissioner Shell or anybody else on the board. This was just a principle I just wanted to make a point on principle, not against anything that we've said or we've discussed.
Public hearing's closed. Discussion's completed. Can I have a motion and a second to either approve or deny this rezoning request and adopt the resolution of statement of consistency?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with the statement of consistency.
Got a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and second. You cast your vote.
All of the results are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. All right, we got one more, I think it is.
Okay. Is Mr. Outlaw present? Okay. You have a request by Jay and Bobby T. Outlaw to rezone property located in Conrad Hill Township, tax map 29, being a portion of lot 20 containing 5/10 of an acre, more or less. Property is located on the south side of East US Highway 64, approximately 360 feet east of the Kepley Road intersection. Rezoning is requested to change from LI Limited Industrial District to that of RA2 Rural Agricultural District. The Planning Board did look at this on September the 3rd. The recommendation was 5-0 to recommend approval of the request. The area that's in question is shaded there in yellow. You can see this is in the US 64 corridor, which is considered a corridor of economic opportunity, and there is some businesses in the area of this request, but Mr. Outlaw has purchased the property, and he would like to make it his residence, his personal residence here. And, he can speak to that when he...
Okay, I declare the public hearing open, and Mr. Outlaw, come forward. All right, Mr. Outlaw, just make your case.
All right, I'm retired. My wife is 4 years from retirement. We, just sold a 5-bedroom house and moved into our 2-bedroom lake house, which is kind of tight quarters. So, for the next 4 years, we'd like to build a house to live in till she retires.
Okay, is there any questions for Mr. Outlaw? Okay, thank you. The public hearing is open now, so anyone from the audience who would like to speak for or against this rezoning request?
The planning board minutes have Ted Myers calling this a downsizing. It actually is a downsizing, but if you look at the context of what he said it's becoming less intrusive, which I would say, I would use the adjective less intensive. So both of them were right. You were talking about a down zoning on, I believe it was the second request tonight. And, this is a genuine down zoning. Not even a NIMBY would oppose a down zoning. And this is one of those.
All right. Is anyone else who'd like to speak, for or against? All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing to the audience and return it to Mr. Corman.
Sure. It is contiguous to similar or like zoning. It's contiguous on the backside of the property, which is zoned RA2. You also have RA3 zoning on the north side of 64, so it's contiguous. So it appears that this would be harmonious with what's out there. You have a smattering of both residences and a few businesses that are along this particular stretch of Highway 64, but policy 610 and 7.3 both lend support to the rezoning of the property, so we would recommend approval.
Okay. Is there any further discussion from the board? Or any questions from Mr. Corman? All right, can I have a motion and a second to either approve or deny this rezoning request?
I'd make a motion to approve with the statement of consistency, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do I have a second? Got a second? You cast your vote.
I know, he's an outlaw, he's gonna do whatever he wants to do, right?
That's right.
And that motion carries 7-0.
Yes, sir.
Thank
So
you.
you try to stick it out another couple of years there in that 2 rooms and you'll got you something. Okay, the next is our closed session. Can I have a motion and a second to go in closed session?
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? We're in closed session. I got several in there, you want one? No.
Your cards aren't in it anymore.
I got all kinds in there if you want one. Got a motion to go back into open session.
I ain't gonna need it.
From Ms. Walker, you got a second?
Second.
Zach?
Look after me.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Coming to you live.
Sorry.
I think that was Davy Crockett.
All right, we're back in open session now, Mr. Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, in, closed session, the board considered a matter with regard to economic development. And, in light of that discussion, the board may wish to amend its agenda to allow for the calling of a, public hearing with regard to that economic development matter.
Okay, so we, I need a motion to amend the agenda.
Yes.
Do I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Goodson?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I appreciate your time. DCEDC would like to request a public hearing to consider an economic development grant for Project Titan at your October 22nd meeting. Project Titan would invest a minimum of $79,100,000 and add a minimum 25 jobs if this grant is approved. This project will stimulate the local economy and increase city and county revenues. This grant would provide 5 annual payments equal to .00432 times the anticipated amount of capital investment, provided the company meet the requirements of the agreement. Any questions?
Any questions, Mr. Goodson? Okay, do I have a motion to set a public hearing for
October 22nd.
October 22nd? Got a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Can this be verbally too?
Yes, sir.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, was that?
Thank you.
That's it. Anything else to come before the board?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.